All right, stem cell companies rallied back in November as Democrats took the House and Senate on support for federally funded stem cell research. In the next half hour, we'll be speaking with the chief executive of Advanced Cell Technology about the prospect of increased funding. We'll find out what a Democratic Congress means for the company. More on In Focus after the break. Up next, we will bring you that stem cell research interview we promised. William Caldwell runs Advanced Cell Technology. The shares got a boost when Democrats took the midterm elections in November, but have since come back. We'll see if he's expecting any help from Nancy Pelosi and her boys in the House. Just after the break. Speaker-designate Nancy Pelosi, soon to be the Speaker overall, has said she will quickly introduce legislation to free funding for human embryonic cell stem research. Though the president is likely to veto any stem cell bill, what changes will this mean for stem cell research and the industry? Bill Caldwell is the CEO of Advanced Cell Technology. He is with us from our bureau in Los Angeles. First of all, Bill, thanks very much for joining us. I wanted to ask if you'll tell us about adult stem cell research, because we hear so much about embryonic stem cell research. Adult stem cell research is making its way. We've heard about a company that's already developed products there. And then tell us if there have been any breakthroughs in embryonic stem cell research as well.
Sure, Matt. The adult stem cell area is one that's been around for quite a while. It's almost akin to kind of the first stage of development of this whole technology sector. The adult companies that are dealing with adult stem cells have been in trials here for the last couple of years. We're all very hopeful that they will be successful. However their success is, it'll just bode very well for the embryonic sector, which is a very new sector. Really, the embryonic stem cell lines have only been really discovered since the latter part of the 1990s, and given the nature of the research that has not occurred because of funding or the lack thereof, this industry has struggled to really show its true potential. We're very encouraged, though, by what's happened over the last couple of years, not only in California, but just recently nationwide with what's happened with the changes in Congress.
Well, opponents to embryonic stem cell research have a mantra, which is basically there haven't been any breakthroughs yet. Do you expect to see any soon, or is the funding really the necessary piece of the building block there?
Well, as I indicated, Matt, the industry is relatively new. The first stem cell line was for human embryonic stem cells was really discovered back in University of Wisconsin in 1998. And given the fact that President Bush pretty much thwarted funding into the sector in 2001, it's been a real struggle for that sector to get any more than just the basic science established. But I am very encouraged with companies like Advanced Cell Technology and others that you're going to see some products starting to move into the clinic and through the process that the FDA has outlined for companies like ourselves. And
do you expect to see funding increase now with the new Democratic Congress?
Absolutely. I'm very encouraged by Congress. Right now, the bills that are up there is to expand the lines for research, but I'm hopeful that they will also be cognizant of the fact that this research needs funding. The most important segment of that funding, though, needs to be the translation from the basic science into the development of therapies and products. And that is a void that needs to be addressed not only by the government, but also by private industry and foundations and consumer groups to help the companies try and develop these therapies.
Have you been encouraged by the states? California was the first, now New Jersey, by the states that have approved funding for research.
Absolutely. They filled the void, although I have to say that from the standpoint of national policy, that's probably the least desirable way to fund basic research. You have different sets of policies, different interests when you start having parochial funding at the state level. It's a national issue. It should be funded at the nation's NIH and at other areas of the government. Because they have the standards and the policies and the whole infrastructure which these states all have to develop in order for them to distribute their funds.
Wouldn't the most desirable way for funding, though, really be private sector funding and funding from Wall Street? I mean, if we want the government to stay out of price controls on the sales end, don't you want to get your funding from the private sector as well?
Matt, yeah, that's true. But if you remember, the model in the United States has been for the NIH to fund the basic research, and then you have private interests picking out those nuggets, whether it's the venture capitalists or angels or others, and they develop the kind of the commercialization of that basic research that the NIH funds. That's been the story of how the biotechnology industry has evolved over the last 25, 30 years. Where private industry and specifically the larger companies in this area really play a major role is in this translation that I talked about between the basic research and translating that research into therapies.
What kind of
and
role?
That's where the money has to come.
What kind of role are the big companies like Pfizer and the other mega caps playing in funding this kind of research?
Right now, the major companies have at least visibly stayed away. In my discussions with big pharma and big bio, it's clear that all of them have interest in the sector. All of them probably have in the bowels of their organization someplace a project working in stem cell research. But these companies don't need another issue with respect to Washington, so they're staying very, very close to the vest in terms of their policies on this area.
All right, our thanks to Bill Caldwell, CEO of Advanced Cell Technology.
Thank you, Matt.